guys, this is Tarot with Kittens, Weights, and Tarot, and I was actually just on my way to bed when I got the idea of making a video about my witchy, spiritual, metaphysical books that I have. I am where my bookcase is, where I keep all my books. I used to have a massive collection of books because, you know, I'm kind of a bibliophile like many of you, but at a certain point, I think I was reading like the Grimoire method, I pared down a lot of the things that I own. So I got rid of a lot of clothes, like a lot of clothes, a lot of clothes, a lot of shoes, jewelry, books, tarot decks, which, you know, I still have my pile here. You know, I'm always going through stuff, and I'm always gifting or you know, sending off to the Goodwill, you know, charity items. So I have kind of a small collection of books, probably compared to a lot of people. Every book here isn't a witchy book, but I have a little section. And so since I don't normally see a lot of videos of people posting like, oh, these are like all my witchy books, you know, and things like that, probably because they have like a lot of books. But since I have a smaller collection, I thought you guys might be interested in seeing that the books that I use and the books that I reference. So I'm gonna turn the camera around and here we go. Okay, so the first book that I have is called The Encyclopedia of Spirits, and this is by Judy Iles or Iles. This is a massive book, and this was referred to me by my friend Steph out in Belgium. But it has just, it's tons and tons of like everything that you can think of. Joan of the Wad, we have Matressa, you know, it's just all these different like deities, demons, ghosts, fairies from all different, you know, parts of the world, different beliefs. So I think this is a great reference. So this is one of my books. Okay, I'm a huge fan of Dan Millman, so there's a couple of his other books that I'm going to be getting, but I love this one. This is called The Life You Were Born to Live, A Guide to Finding Your Life's Purpose, and this is kind of a workbook, like working through it and trying to find, you know, like it's numerology, but in a little bit different way. You know how you put in like your birthday and your birth year, and then you come out with like your number, you know, the way he does it is a little bit different. And the insights and the psychology into like me, it was just really fascinating. So I bought this used for like $1. So, you know, if you get your hands on a used copy, I highly suggest this book. So I actually have a few. This is like my ancient Egypt section, and although maybe not metaphysical and not spiritual, I do have a deep connection with ancient Egypt, and I do like to look into like the gods and goddesses and just like spiritual beliefs and way of life, and it's incorporated into my practice. So I have tons of my ancient Egypt books, but I would say the one that I would recommend to you guys is actually from my stepmom, and it's called Ancient Healing Secrets. So it's not just Egypt, but it has different, it's not all inclusive, but it has different cultures around the world, and like their way of healing, like the old ways of healing. So it doesn't have every ailment in here, and it doesn't have like every culture in the world, but I find it to be, you know, like a nice light reference, you know, for like little things, and just, you know, like, oh, you know, I could try this, you know, next time I have a bug bite, or I could try this next time I have a sore throat. It just opens you up to different ways that you can use herbs and nature and oils and, you know, things like that. This book also given to me by my stepmom, and this is A Dictionary of Egyptian Gods and Goddesses. This is like literally all the Egyptian gods and goddesses from all the different dynastic periods. Sorry, I'm trying to do this with one hand. Oh wow, hey, I just happened to pull out a Bastet, who is gracing my bookshelf down here. But yeah, so it goes into like
how they worshipped that goddess, maybe how it changed throughout the different periods, when they were more popular, their place in the Egyptian pantheon, you know, who they were the daughter of, who they married, and I just find it to be a really good reference, especially if you are one that really identifies with ancient Egyptian culture, and maybe you incorporate some of it into your practice. So yes, people, yes. And I'm probably going to highly recommend all these books because, you know, if I, you know, have gotten what I needed out of a book, I'll usually pass it on to one of my best friends. But if I feel like it's a book that I have to like reference time and time again because I love it and I keep going back to it, then I'm going to keep it. So I've read lots of other books, but you know, there's only a few that I've really kept because I feel like I can continue to go back to them, and I do. And if I feel like I'm never going back to them, you know, I gift it because, you know, that's just my thing. Okay, so my uncle actually gifted me this book. It's the Ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, as well as this little paperweight scarab here that came along with it. But it has, it's called spells, but I don't think they're really spells. So if we go down here, because I want to open it up for you guys so you can see what's going on in here. But like see spell number 44, for not dying again in the realm of the dead. It's more like little prayers and incantations. And I use this sometimes when I'm speaking to my relatives and my furry loved ones on the other side. And especially, you know, around the time of the anniversary of their death, you know, I might do a little just prayer for them, just because, again, I can identify with this culture so much, and we're pretty sure in my family that, you know, ancient Egyptian culture is actually in our lineage somewhere. I mean, you know, our name is Egypt, so anyway, so yes, recommend this book. So this book, you may have seen me talk about this during my last live chat, maybe not this past weekend because I was actually doing my opera stuff, so I missed the live chat, but the live chat before that, my homegirl, Queen Almstedt, had gifted me this book by Sherry Dillard, and it's called Sacred Signs and Symbols, and it's basically being able to interpret the symbols in nature, you know. So if you're setting out on a walkabout, you know, and you're out there for an hour and you're asking certain questions, and you know, you this guide is more for like people that live in more you know, like suburbia. You know, you live in, you know, where there's a lot more buildings and a lot less nature. It's helping you to decode that, and also being able to sometimes take those symbols that you've taken, you know, on your walk or your time out in your backyard, and writing them all down on slips of paper and actually putting them into spreads. So this is a really interesting book. So if you guys can get your hands on this, do it. So going to this part of my collection, this is actually more like my ghosty stuff. So, you know, we have like the ghost stories of San Diego, California ghosts, Hawaii's ghosts. This one, Piercing the Veil, is a really good book because it debunks a lot of the like made up tales that, you know, I mean, especially here in San Diego, Old Town is teeming with ghosts, yes. And they say in this book, you know, this person was a docent for, you know, Old Town San Diego, you know, in the ghost tours. And he's saying, you know, that the facts are really interesting, and there's no need to add in, like, you know, other things to make the ghost stories scarier. Like, a lot of the stuff is like super interesting, and it's just interesting how, you know, some stuff has been twisted, and it's just, you know, so this is about like ghost stories somehow getting twisted along the way, but you know, the facts are sometimes stranger than fiction, and so why go with fiction? And so here I have I like the weird US and books, and so this one's called Weird Hauntings. I've actually gifted my other weird US books, but I like going back to these. I do know that sometimes with like ghost books like this, or even going down here to my other ghost book sections, that there are some inaccuracies to certain ghost stories, because sometimes it's just going off of legend, or, you know, stories that have been told over and over again without fact checking a lot of things. But I think that, you know, just looking at the stories, because I like to go to certain historical places where things have happened, and I like to connect with the spirits there, and sometimes offer my assistance and helping them to cross over, you know, and just helping in any way I can, because, you know, if I like helping you peeps here on Earth, I like helping in the other realms as well. So I don't really look into like the story, but it's like, okay, so I'm taking what I think might be mostly fact and the rest might be fiction, and kind of doing my own research. I mean, that's kind of the nerdy thing I like to do on the side, I guess, like ghosty nerdy, you know. But yeah, so this like my ghosty section. When I was getting back into Buddhism, because that's something that a few of my relatives on my Filipino side are into, is Buddhism, and mostly the translation of the teachings of the Buddha through, and I always get the name wrong, Thich Nhat Hanh, and this is a really just, I mean, it's kind of basic in all the Buddha's teachings, but it gives you pretty much a good idea of, you know, what the Buddha's teachings were. So if you're into Buddhism, I'd say this is a good starter book for that. So I do like to refer to this from time to time. I have gotten other Buddhist books before, you know, and I've retained that information, but this one I do love to reference quite a bit. Okay, so let's go into tarot spread books. You guys have seen me talk about this on my channel a lot, the 365 tarot spreads by Sasha. I absolutely love all the spreads in here. I think they're fun. I think they're good jumping off points for maybe even tweaking them for yourself. Well, let's go to today. So today is September. What the heck is today? Today is the 25th. Yes. Okay. And this is called the Guiding Goals spread. Ooh, I might want to do this one tonight. Look at these questions. Yeah, this is a fantastic book. Plus it tells you like on this day, which I'm like one of those on this day in history. Like I hated sitting in a history class, but I love history. I love reading history. I love watching history. I love like little history tidbits. But yeah, having to like sit in a classroom of history, like no bueno, no thank you. This other book, Tarot Spreads by Barbara Moore, is really good on helping you develop your own tarot spreads through her very basic tarot spreads. So like she has some in here. This is called the Pantheon of Your Life spread. So goes into detail about what each card might mean, you know, and why she set it up that way. But you know, of course, helping you to tweak them and helping you to create your own spreads. So this is also a very good reference book for me. And then I've also shown this on my channel before when I've done spreads for you guys, and this is the Ultimate Guide to Tarot Spreads. And I love that these three books have varying tarot spreads, so it's not like the same spreads over and over. Otherwise, like, why would I spend money to do that? And this is by Liz Dean. And what I like about hers is on this side, she talks about, well, like if you get these certain cards in the reading, this is how it could be translated as it pertains to the topic, you know. So, you know, really good for beginners. I think it's also really good for seasoned readers, just maybe adding, you know, just more vocabulary to the arsenal. You know, I think that helps. So yeah, this is another great book. Hey, Alana Fairchild, big fan of her oracle decks and a big fan of this book, Messages in Numbers. I hate math, but I love numbers. So I constantly get messages in numbers all the time, on my clock, on my watch, especially like when I'm working out, you know, it tells you how many calories you burn, and you know, I get messages like through the number there, and it's just, you know, I see numbers everywhere and it means something to me. And sometimes when I feel like, oh, you know, this number which hasn't really jumped out at me before is really jumping out at me, I'll reference this book, and you know, and then I interpret it the way and which resonates best with me. And so like this is the sixes section, so let's say you're seeing a lot of 6s and 2s, 6s and 3s, 6s and 4s, and it goes through all of that. And then there's a mandala at the end of each section to help you heal with that number. And you know, I think that's fabulous. So yeah, let's say you had the 3s, it tells you what 3 means and what would 3 and a 1, 3 and a 2, 3 and a 3, you know, things like that. So very good book, highly recommend, just like all my other ones. Now we're getting into some of my spell books. I have the Modern Guide to Witchcraft by Skyy Alexander, and also the Modern Witchcraft Spell Book. First of all, I think the books themselves are just beautiful. You know, the hardcovers, the uneven pages, you know, just makes it feel very tactile, you know. So I think that, you know, if you were beginning on kind of a pagan path, you know, because everybody kind of practices witchcraft in their own way. You know, I've got my own thing going on. Mine's more of a mixture of like Filipino folklore with you know, my Buddhism teachings with, I don't even know how you classify it, a lot of ancient Egyptian, you know, pantheon in there. I mean, you know, my witchcraft is all over the place. It's very eclectic. But I found a lot of the things in here, although some people would say it's pretty basic, like maybe for like beginner witches. I liked how simple and how lovely things were laid out. I love the wording, and I love being able to take that and then twist it into what I do in my practice. So if you're looking for something that has really easy language, it's beautifully written, not easy language and like it's dumbed down, but I just think it's beautiful language. You know, sometimes I feel like with some books that they purposely speak in a academic tone as to only appeal to a certain audience, you know, and thereby leaving out a lot of people. And so I don't like when people put on airs, and some books I think put on a lot of airs. It's like, not that I don't understand, you know, highbrow academia language, but sometimes I think people go to excess just to appear a certain way, and this does not do any of that. And yeah, and it's you know, simple spells, and again, anything that you can do to maybe get ideas to incorporate into your practice. So yes. Okay, my next few books that I have here, I have the Crystal Healer. So prescriptions using crystals. I don't have every crystal in here, but I like, you know, how it's just easily laid out, and I like being able to feel with the crystals that I have, like substitute crystals that could work. Like let's say howlite. I have howlite. But you know, it tells you where it's from, the astrological sign, the chakra that it's associated with, its healing properties. You know, it's like that for all of them. So how you could use your different stones to heal. I do have Judy Hall's crystal books. You know, I have 3 of her crystal books, so you know, that kind of goes along with it. But those crystal books are in my nightstand, closer to where my crystals are. But you know, if I'm actually going to do some deep healing, I will use this, and then I will look at the stones that I have and see, you know, which ones I could like substitute for certain healing, you know, because I like to, you know, make things my own. And then here I have Moonology. I love working with the moon, and by the way, this cover is so lush. It feels so silky. I mean, okay, those of you that are tactile, but that's by Yasmin Bolin. And it talks about, you know, different moon phases and ways to connect when it's in a certain astrological sign, how to incorporate, you know, the moon on the daily, how to do, you know, incorporate the moon, you know, on its bigger phases, like the full moon and the new moon. And yeah, it's good stuff, you know, things to focus on when, you know, the moon is in your house and your house of whatever. Or I mean, you know, a certain astrological sign on the full moon in the house of, you know, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so this is the book of crystal spells. Like you guys know, I'm like a crystal freak. I have a lot of crystals. And so I like, you know, finding different ways to utilize them within my spells. Do I ever follow the spells in these books to a T? Sometimes, but usually I go with what feels right. You know, I'm a feely kind of person. So this is also a really good one. And again, simple. I'm all about simple. Some things I think need to be bigger and elaborate, but that's just me. But most of the time, my spell work is very simple. Okay, so I mean, how do I not have the Good Cat spell book? So this book, I mean, it's kind of, it's cute. I mean, you know, it's not, I guess some people might be like, oh, it's not serious enough for what I do, but me, you know, it's got just a few spells in here, but it's ways to, you know, incorporate your furry loved one into your spells, and I think that's fun. Also talking about like looking at your cats and their astrological symbols, and or I mean the astrological signs, and you know what that can mean for them and how to help them when it comes to their like certain stones. And I don't know, I thought that was like kind of cute. And then here at the back where you see all these like symbols and like definitions or something, it has in the back here this gigantic cat oracle fold out. And so you fold it out here and basically you ask a question, bring your furry loved one over, and then wait for them to walk across this thing, and wherever they sit, like you can like lift up their butt and see like kind of which square they're sitting on, or maybe if you felt like when their paw hit here and they stayed here, like I felt like this is the answer, so then you find the symbol, and like maybe it's the symbol, and you go over to like number 3 here, so you know, so it'll be 3 cat equals this, and you go back into the book, and you know, you find it here. Okay, well this is the cat, and this, you know, under here, and this would be your answer. So you know, it's kind of like kitten bingo, but with spells. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely check it out by Jillian Kemp. I have the 1001 Spells complete book for spell for every purpose. This one is good for spell ideas. I think some of the spells in here, you know, just don't really resonate with me. They're not really, you know, like I'm not really attracted to them, but I can see like, oh well, you know, I've never thought about doing a spell for that, you know, and then I kind of jump off and do my own thing. So I think this is a good idea book, and it's a huge book. So you know, if you're interested in this, heck yeah. And this is by Cassandra Eason. These next two, this is Charms and Spells, and or Charms, Spells and Formulas by Ray Marlborough. And again, you know, just I like spell books. I like, you know, trying out new ways of doing things, you know. I like getting ideas. And then Spells with the Moon, like, hello. And that's by Diane Alquist, or Alquist. So yeah, and again, very simple, good jumping off point for things that you want to do. And so it's divided up into like different types of spells, and then like what moon phase you would have to maybe do that spell in. I mean, not have to, but you know, like the best moon phase to use, like stones to use, candles to use, and so yeah, so this is good. So I have a couple of books. I used to have 3 books by Tess Whitehurst. I used to have the Magica of Trees book, but I ended up gifting that to my best friend just because I wasn't using it a lot. But I do have the Magical Fashionista, which is incorporating magic into the clothes that you wear, and like your, you know, your jewelry and your shoes, and just like making everything feel magical, you know. And so that way, you know, you kind of have that, you know, when you're doing the mundane, that you have that, like that, you know, feels powerful, feels fun, you know, kind of thing. And this is incorporating magic throughout your home and around your home, and just making everything feel, you know, that it's done with intent. You know, everything in your home, everything that you're wearing is just intentional, and it's, yeah, I like it. I also have the Kitchen Table Tarot, yes, Tarot. I have the Kitchen Table Tarot by Melissa Sinova. And this is a popular book. A lot of you probably already have this, but it's just a way of breaking down the cards into like hilarious language, and just it's really a different, like a unique spin on how you look at the tarot, and I think it really was beneficial to my practice. Okay, I had Rebecca Campbell's other book, think it was the Rise Sister Rise, but I ended up gifting that to another bestie of mine. But I love referencing the light is the new black. I like just being able to flip through the pages and just like doing bibliomancy, which is why I have certain books that I have. Like I like doing bibliomancy, which is divining through books, you know, and just kind of like closing my eyes and being like, okay, you know, and seeing what that sentence says and being like, oh, you know, that's like a little message for me. And so yeah, I think this book is really good for that. I've read it probably twice. I love it. Also Witch by Lisa Lister, again, luxurious feel on the cover. Oh, so nice. This one was just, you know, I made a lot of notes in here. Yeah, I love this book, just really helping people to reclaim that word witch, because usually I think society has helped people feel like scared of the word witch, you know, that it's almost like a negative, just like some other words in our language that we try not to use them as negatives anymore because that's hurtful. And so, you know, the word witch, you know, so, you know, sometimes even now, like with the you know, I live in a Hispanic neighborhood. Sometimes when somebody's trying to insult somebody else, they'll call him or her a bruja, which is like, you witch. And so it's seen as a negative. And so I liked reading through this and doing the exercises in here, just really, you know, diving into like shadow work with how do I work with this word witch, and what does that mean to me? How do I feel when it's said to me? You know, and just, yeah. So yeah, hey Lisa Lister, you're awesome. So yeah, these two books are great. These three books, I actually have a few other Lisa Chamberlain books, but on my like my iBooks on my phone, because they're really small like this. But this is very basic candle magic. So I mean, you could not, you know, have it in your library, but I just, you know, I have like a lot of candles that I've collected from the Goodwill, so yeah, I like having this as a reference, mostly just for like candle color and things like that. This one I think is a good jumping off point for people that are interested in working with Santa Muerte. So I would suggest reading it from beginning to end, just because it's, I like the chronology of this. Talking about Santa Muerte, how like all the different altars for her, different times of the year, and yeah, this is a really good reference to those of you like looking for stuff about Santa Muerte. Check this out. And then I actually got this book used for, again, like 50 cents, and this was recommended by Vix of New Age Hipster. She has this book, she really liked it, and so I went and got it. So this is not like religious in the way like it's Catholic or Christian, but it's being able to work with the saints, you know, as just separate entities from, you know, Catholicism, and being able to do spells with them and when to call on them, just like you would any other ascended master and things like that. So yeah, this is fun. This book I love. I actually got this with the Witch's Moon box. And it's called The Green Witch, and so it's about working with herbs and nature, and I just really love it. I just love the language in this book. I reference it sometimes, not as much as my other books, but hey, I just realized that my green nail polish goes with it. Oh, I gotta redo my nails. Ah! But yeah, I think you know, if you're looking into more of the going into herbs or working with nature, that this would be a good starter book for some people. And then I have a few other books here. I have Healing Wise. Again, this was another like 50-cent book. Like, you guys don't have to spend a lot of money on books, you know, seriously. This was really good at just breaking down just a handful of herbs, and basically they're just like, they grow sometimes on the side of the road because people see them as like weeds. But yeah, just taking a handful of herbs and really diving into like how it works with the system. It's scientific, it's also you know, spiritual, it's yeah, like, look. And just really being able to understand inside and out these just few particular herbs. It's not a lot of herbs, and basically this book is saying that you could basically just, you know, do all the healing that you want from these basic herbs. And yeah, this is just great. It's where science meets spirituality, and I think this is my tome, people. I love this. Trying to find the table of contents here. Okay, here we go. So here they are. It's burdock, chickweed, dandelion, nettle, oat straw, seaweeds, and violet. So this one I probably recommend above all my books. This is a good one, especially if you like to, you're a healer, you know. Okay, I also have Pendulum Magic for Beginners by Richard Webster. Yes, it's for beginners, but I think it was, again, I think has some really great exercises on using your pendulum, you know, from finding things that are missing in your house to, is this good for me type food, you know. You know, so I think this is just unique ways of working with your pendulum. And then this one I'm going to be starting next year, 2019, my Witch's Spell-A-Day Almanac, yay! My 2018 one is by my nightstand. And this one also gifted to me by the lovely Queen Almstedt. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The rest of my bookcase, oh, by the way, this is like my children's book section of like all my old like kids books that I loved, and I like to do bibliomancy with these books as well. I think children's books, like, you know, like let's say the Peanuts gang, you know, I think that there are some great messages through Peanuts, or I mean through children's books and Peanuts books. And then lastly down here is just books that came with my tarot cards or my oracle cards, and I, you know, they're big and the boxes were big, so I just kind of keep them separate, and then if they came in big boxes like this, I just put them in little tarot or oracle bags. So yeah. So anyway, that's it from me, spiritual homies. Hopefully you liked going through my, I guess somewhat small compared to others, book collection of my witchy books, my spiritual books, my metaphysical books, ghosty books, you know. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any comments or questions. Put that in the comment section down below. Yeah, and if you guys dug this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to click subscribe, and don't forget to click that ding 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 notification bell for more videos just like this. And I will catch you spiritual homies later, alright? Peace, love, and chicken grease. Peace out!